Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something a bit different. We're not just, reading sources. We're trying to hand you a bit of a cheat code.
That sounds intriguing. A cheat code for what?
Well, if your goal is moving from just speaking correct English to speaking really natural, confident, native-sounding English, the key is often in these small phrases, the ones native speakers use almost without thinking.
Ah, I see where you're going. Yeah, that's absolutely right. You don't need like a massive vocabulary list sometimes.
Yeah.
It's more about internalizing the structure and, crucially, the social feel of these really common expressions.
Right. And our sources today, they focus entirely on these kinds of linguistic shortcuts. We basically boiled down the research to four essential power phrases.
Okay, 4 key ones. What have we got?
So our mission today is to really dig into these four. We're looking at make sure, which is all about confirming things.
Okay, checking. Got it.
Then an hour late. This one's about timing, obviously, but also social stuff, how you handle being late.
Right, the social side is huge there.
Then dressed up. Appearance, expectations, what you wear.
Mm-hmm. Formal versus casual.
And finally, must be. This is the phrase for guessing, making logical jumps, but also, surprisingly, empathy.
Ooh, empathy. That's an interesting angle for must be.
Yeah, so by the end of this, the idea is you'll understand not just what they mean, but, exactly when and how to use them to sound more fluent, more natural.
Sounds like a plan. Let's get started on that climb towards more effortless speech.
All right, let's kick off with confirmation. Make sure. Now, this one seems basic, right?
It does on the surface.
But it carries, well, quite a bit of nuance about responsibility, about care. And apparently, English learners often miss some of the specific ways it's structured.
Precisely. Yeah, at its core, make sure just means to check or, confirm that something specific happens or is correct.
Like a reminder.
Exactly. It's usually an instruction or a strong reminder, really focused on stopping a mistake or making sure something isn't forgotten.
I'm thinking of those classic examples from the sources, like telling someone in your family, make sure you lock the door before you leave.
Standard one. Yeah.
Or about an item, make sure you bring your passport to the airport. The outcome really depends on being certain about that thing.
And it's so flexible. That's what makes it powerful, I think. It works for, like, mental stuff.
Yeah.
Physical actions, future states.
Give me an example.
Well, like, make sure you understand the instructions before you start.
Yeah.
Or physical, make sure your phone is charged.
Yeah.
Or even about how you do something. Make sure to speak slowly so everyone can follow you.
Okay, what about the feeling it gives off? The sources called it polite but firm. If I just say lock the door, that's an order.
Mm-hmm. Very direct.
But make sure you lock the door, it softens it somehow. Does that change depending on who you're talking to?
Oh, absolutely. And this is where that social context really kicks in. Like, if a manager tells an employee, make sure the report is filed by 5, it's communicating, this is important, it needs to happen, but it's not quite as harsh as file the report by 5.
It just knows shared responsibility.
Yeah, something like that. Like, we need this outcome.
Mm.
But flip it around. If you're talking to your boss, you probably wouldn't say, make sure you read my report.
No, definitely not.
You'd say, make sure I have that report filed by 5.
Yeah.
It becomes an assurance you're giving, not a request you're making of them.
Ah, okay. That makes total sense. So it's a tool for both, sort of directing and reassuring. But let's talk structure. You mentioned learners get tripped up. What's the common issue?
Ah, yes. It's often about flow in spoken English. We often use the structure make sure to, followed right away by the verb.
Instead of
this slightly more formal, make sure that you do X, which is grammatically fine, totally correct.
but maybe a bit clunky in fast conversation.
Exactly. So instead of saying, make sure that you call me when you get there, which is okay,
You'd say.
make sure to call me when you get there. See how that little to just connects it smoothly.
Yeah, it does roll off the tongue better. Make sure to call. Okay, that feels much more natural. That's the kind of subtle thing that really changes how fluent you sound.
It really is. It's that tiny difference between sounding like you're maybe translating in your head and sounding like it's just flowing naturally. Nail that. Make sure to structure.
Great tip. Okay, so we've covered checking things, making sure actions happen. Let's switch gears. Let's talk about time, which involves a whole different kind of social dance. Phrase number 2, an hour late.
Simple math, right? 60 minutes past the planned time.
Yep. If the meeting was at 2 p.m., you rock up at 3 p.m., that's an hour late.
But the implications, they can be complex.
Well, first, it's flexibility. Like you said earlier, it works for lots of things. Trains, people, events.
Right. The train was an hour late.
Yeah.
You showed up an hour late. Dinner started an hour late.
Right.
Very adaptable.
And you can swap the time easily. 5 minutes late, half an hour late, or even the opposite, 10 minutes early.
Sure. But let's really focus on the social bit. If you say something or someone is an hour late, does it always sound like you're blaming them? Or can it just be like a factual statement?
That's a really good question. I think it depends on the subject. If you're talking about, say, a bus or a plane, the flight is an hour late. That sounds pretty neutral, right?
Yeah, it feels like you're blaming the system maybe,
Oh,
or
yeah.
just stating a fact about the schedule.
Exactly. The system is at fault. But
Right.
what happens when you apply it to a person?
Then that neutrality kind of vanishes, doesn't it?
I think so. If you announce I am an hour late, you're automatically taking some kind of social hit. You're admitting fault.
And this is the key thing from the sources, isn't it? When it's you who's late, just saying the phrase isn't enough, socially it feels incomplete.
Right. You need something else, like an apology or reason.
Both, ideally. To sound, thoughtful and polite, you need to close that social loop. So not just, I'm an hour late.
Which sounds kind of abrupt, maybe even rude.
It can, yeah.
Oh.
It suggests you either don't care or you expect them to know why. The polite way is, I'm so sorry, I'm an hour late, traffic was awful. Or, apologies, I was half an hour late, I couldn't find parking anywhere.
That little bit of context acknowledges their weight. It validates their time.
Exactly. That's the crucial bit. Yeah, fluency isn't just words. It's about recognizing the other person's perspective, their feelings. Skipping the apology or reason is a classic social misstep.
And it instantly flags you as maybe not quite getting the unspoken rules.
Precisely. It's the social lubricant keeps things running smoothly.
Okay, lubricant acquired. Let's move from time to appearance. Social expectations around clothes. Our third phrase, dressed up.
Right, dressed up. This one's all about effort, isn't it? It means you're wearing clothes that are noticeably fancier, more formal, maybe more elegant than what you'd wear day to day.
It's definitely not the t-shirt and jeans look.
No. It implies you put in some extra effort to look good, as the source said, usually for a specific reason or occasion.
So think weddings, fancy dinners, maybe important meetings. Everyone was dressed up for the wedding.
Or she got really dressed up for her birthday dinner. Or he dressed up for the job interview. The clothes match the event's importance or celebratory feel.
Yeah, makes sense. But there's another meaning too, right? More playful.
Oh yeah, the costume angle. While it usually means suits, dresses, smart clothes, it can also just mean wearing any kind of special outfit, like a costume.
Like kids at Halloween.
Exactly. The kids get dressed up as superheroes, or adults might get dressed up for a 70s theme party. The core idea is the same. It's not your normal attire. It's special for the occasion.
So what's the potential pitfall here for someone learning English? It's not just knowing the definition, is it?
No, I think it's about understanding the expectation for a given situation. You don't want to be the person who shows up dressed up in a tuxedo for a casual backyard barbecue.
Oh, God, yeah. That instant social panic when you realize you misjudged the dress code, that's what we want to help people avoid.
And the way to navigate that is understanding the opposite. Dressed down.
Right. If dressed up is maximum effort, formal.
Dressed down is the opposite. Minimal effort, deliberately casual, simple clothes. Relaxed.
Okay, so that gives you the whole spectrum. You might say, work is casual Friday, so everyone dressed down, meaning jeans and polo shirts are fine.
Or you could use it to describe that mismatch scenario. Urgh! I wish I hadn't dressed up so much. Everyone else was really dressed down. It immediately explains the social awkwardness.
Got it. So using dressed up and dressed down correctly signals you understand the social code for different events. It sets expectations.
Exactly. It's not just about the clothes themselves, but the social agreement they represent. Master those two, and you're well on your way with the language of abhorrence.
Excellent. Okay, final phrase. This one is super useful for making guesses, for deductions, and as we hinted, maybe for deeper connection. Must be.
Yes, I really like this one. It's about thinking, not just describing. When you say something must be true, you're not stating a known fact. You're making a strong guess.
A logical deduction.
Yeah, based on the evidence you have, you're pretty sure, like 90%, 95% sure, but you don't know for absolute certain because you didn't witness it directly or haven't confirmed it yet.
It's like playing detective in everyday life. If I see someone yawning over and over,
You think?
she's yawning a lot, she must be tired. I didn't see her stay up all night, but the clues point strongly that way.
Right. And we need to be careful here. This is different from the must that means obligation, like I must finish this report.
Good point. This must be is always about logical probability. It seems logically certain that.
Can you give another example of that deductive use?
Sure, like, Spotting someone's job from clues. He's wearing a uniform and carrying a medical bag. He must be a paramedic.
Or guessing based on the environment. Wow, it's so quiet in the office. Everyone must be in that big meeting. You're inferring from the situation.
And structurally, how does it work?
It's followed by the base form of the verb. So, must be tired, must be hungry, must be raining. Or it can be followed by a noun. Look at the resemblance. That must be your brother.
Okay, that's the logical side. But you mentioned empathy. That feels like the really powerful, maybe less obvious use. How does must be show empathy?
Ah, this is the real gold, I think. Using must be lets you acknowledge and validate someone else's feelings or situation in a really natural, caring way. It shows understanding.
So instead of just stating the obvious.
Exactly. If someone tells you they've been working double shifts all week, you don't just say, that is difficult. It can sound a bit detached,
Mm.
clinical, almost.
So what's the empathetic alternative using must be?
You'd say something like, wow, working doubles all week, that must be exhausting.
Mm.
Or if someone shares good news, you finally finished your PhD, you must be so relieved.
Ah, I see. You're basically putting yourself in their shoes and saying, based on your situation, I strongly guess you're feeling X.
Precisely. You're verbalizing the logical, emotional consequence of what they've told you. And it's a brilliant politeness strategy, too. You're showing you understand their experience without being overly intrusive or making assumptions sound like facts.
That really does elevate the conversation, doesn't it? If someone says they lost their wallet, saying, oh, that must be stressful, feels much more connecting than just, that's bad.
It connects you instantly. It shows genuine engagement and allows you to express strong feelings, sympathy, happiness, concern in a way that feels sophisticated and, well, human. It's pretty much essential if you want to sound thoughtful in English.
Okay, fantastic. So let's try and pull this all together for you, the listener. We've gone through 4 phrases, each with its own kind of social weight. Quick recap.
Let's do it. First, make sure means check or confirm. Remember that natural spoken flow often uses make sure to do something, like make sure to lock the door. Signals responsibility.
Got it. Second, an hour late, arriving after the planned time. And the crucial social rule, if it's you, always add an apology or a reason. Sorry I'm an hour late, the traffic was terrible.
Third, dressed up, wearing fancier clothes than usual, showing extra effort. And its opposite, dressed down, for casual situations, signals understanding of social context.
And fourth, must be, making a strong guess based on evidence. He hasn't eaten all day, he must be starving. And critically, use it for empathy. That must have been wonderful.
Right. Now, the most important part, application. Just knowing these isn't enough. Fluency comes from using them. So the challenge for you this week is to actively try these out.
Don't just notice them, use them.
Yeah. When you're sending an email, try phrasing something with, I'll make sure to. If a friend tells you about their tough day, respond with, wow, that must have been difficult. Start building those sentences yourself.
That conscious effort, that practice, that's what bridges the gap between knowing the grammar rule and actually internalizing the rhythm, the feel of natural speech.
And stepping back for a second, think about the common theme here. Across all 4 phrases, what did the sources keep highlighting?
Context, thoughtfulness.
Exactly. And politeness. Always politeness. The need for the apology with an hour late. The empathy angle of must be, using make sure, hopefully, not just bossily.
It raises a really interesting question, doesn't it? Something for you to think about as you keep learning. How much of sounding truly natural, truly fluent in English depends not just on getting the grammar right,
But on really understanding and using these small, almost invisible cues, these markers of social awareness and politeness that native speakers deploy constantly, often without even thinking about it.
they really are like the hidden language within the language.
Mastering them is a huge step towards mastering genuine communication.
Well, we really hope this deep dive gives you a solid advantage on your path to sounding more fluent and natural. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you. Keep learning, keep practicing, and pay attention to those crucial social cues.